He was big, he was buff, and he wore a suit and carried a briefcase. "So the boss of the game is a literal boss?" asked a voice from behind her. Tamiko whipped around, ready to tear into the person responsible for ruining her concentration. Instead of one culprit, she found a dozen onlookers surrounding her. "Of course the boss of Brawlmania Supreme is a literal boss," said Tamiko. She used to be able to game in peace, but not since she, her best friend Ollie, and his brother Hollis saved Slamdown Town from closing a few months ago. New fans continued to flock to the arena ever since, and that meant having to deal with fresh-faced newbies hogging her game and gawking bystanders messing up her focus. "Stand back, everyone," she said, raising her hands in the air. "Professional gaming is serious business. I wouldn't want any of you to get hurt." Tamiko grinned as the onlookers took 2 steps back. Part of her liked having a crowd, but the other part of her realized she needed to focus and forget the annoying onlookers. "Game on!" On screen, Miscreant bashed Buff Boss with a corrupt chokeslam that left her opponent dazed and confused. Tamiko yanked the joystick back to avoid the Buff Boss's briefcase beatdown before leaping forward and attacking with a monstrous moonsault combo. A siren wailed as Buff Boss trapped Miscreant in a business meeting hold. With her sweaty, aching palms, Tamiko smashed the attack buttons to escape. She twirled the joystick, tapped both buttons simultaneously, and rammed an enraged elbow straight into Buff Boss's gut. Epic move! She timed her attacks to perfection and evaded incoming blows with practiced ease. Behind her, the crowd grew anxious, all eyes trained on her rising score. "She's going to do it! Power up!" "This is it," thought Tamiko. Buff Boss began to blink, which meant 2 things. First, that a few more well-timed hits would finish him off. But second, and more important, that he had transformed into a super version of himself, one that could end the match in just 1 move. Before she could react, Buff Boss crossed the ring and grabbed Miscreant. "No, no, no," she whispered. It was too late. He lifted Miscreant high above his head. Tamiko watched, helpless, as Buff Boss slammed her character onto the mat and pinned her. She tapped the buttons as quickly as she could to try to break free, but the in-game ref called the pinfall. Game over. She looked at her score. 95,052. "I was so close," said Tamiko. She dug into her pockets and found them empty. "Oh, great, and now I'm out of quarters. Show's over, everyone." Her gaggle of newly acquired fans dispersed. Fame was fickle and fleeting, but it didn't bother her. She'd try again next weekend. For now, all that gaming had worked up an appetite. She made her way out of the arcade, eager to find her best friend and gather as many snacks as her arms could carry. Chapter 2. Ollie. "Hey, that's not fair! I've been waiting in line for 10 minutes!" Ollie Evander really needed to pee, but as he danced back and forth in the long line for the bathroom, it became painfully clear that 1, he would need to hold it, and 2, that 8th graders were just as annoying at the arena as they were at school. "What are you going to do about it, 6th grader?" demanded the 8th grader, who had pushed his way past Ollie toward the front of the line. "Cry to your mommy?" "I'm not a crybaby," said Ollie. The 8th grader ignored him. "Actually, when you do, get her to sign this." He shoved an autograph book into Ollie's hands. "The referee is my favorite wrestler. Now out of my way." Ollie instinctively reached for the magic gum in his back pocket. The second he tossed it into his mouth and chewed, he'd transform into Big Chew, the giant wrestler with arms the size of dump trucks. Then he'd give that 8th grader something to cry to his mommy about. Only there wasn't a wad of sticky gum in his pocket. A bit of lint, yes, and a hardened, been-through-the-wash piece of paper that he'd been doodling on, but no gum. Right, he remembered. I gave it up. The sound of a flushing toilet brought him back to reality. He bounced up and down, trying to see over the heads in front of him and think of anything other than having to pee. "Gotta pee," said another 8th grader.